Hello and welcome to Round 4 Flicks. There are many films that were left out or missed when choosing the best science fiction film. It may be difficult to avoid missing or being drawn into the vast ocean of mainstream films about artificial intelligence, aliens, and time travel that bring viewers into a new era of technologically advanced sci-fi stories with a different perspective. So today we're going to concentrate on some of those science fiction films that, while they may not have become box office successes, but unquestionably deserve praise and attention among science fiction audiences. Let's now begin the video. Number 10. Time Trap. Ben Foster and Mark Dennis are the directors of this sci-fi action-adventure film. The story revolves around a group of college students who go out into the Texas countryside in search of their missing archaeology teacher. However, when they accidentally come across an uncharted cave and decide to examine it without knowing anything about it, their expedition quickly turns into a horrible nightmare. As they enter the cave, strange and terrible time and space-related occurrences start to happen. In order to avoid spoilers, let's just leave it in suspense as to whether they will find out about their teacher and what he is searching for. We've all seen enough visually stunning sci-fi movies, but occasionally a low-budget film will really play with our minds in a manner that many expensive films fail to do. Time Trap is an example of a low-budget science fiction film that manages to be interesting and compelling by focusing more on the time of the story and tension-building moments than on futuristic visual effects. Number 9. The Island. Michael Bay is the director of this dystopian sci-fi action thriller film. The story takes place in a contemporary unsuitable settlement and centers on Lincoln's Sixth Echo, who struggles to fit into this complex reality in which he lives alone in a building. When a colleague is chosen to be sent to the island, the last spotlessly clean place on Earth, Lincoln's Sixth Echo begins to question his restricted existence. The main plot begins when Lincoln learns that the residents of the facility are clones used to replace wealthy individuals in other cultures. He devises a plan to escape with Sarah Jordan in order to take down the illegal cloning organization and learn more. He wants to try something a little different when the island is released because it deserves greater attention. The story explores well-known themes surrounding human cloning, including the fact that it is always unsuccessful. Although it is not perfect, the movie does a superb job of combining science fiction weirdness with high-octane action. It was a pleasant film with a compelling story that was well supported by Michael Bay's energetic direction, with the exception of a few overdone action sequences. Number 8. The Fountain. Darren Aronofsky is the director of this epic sci-fi or man's fantasy film. The story follows Tomas Verdi, Tom Creel, and Tommy, a space traveler, who travel through time in order to find eternal life and defend their love. There are 3 parallel stories from different centuries, with Tomas searching for the Fountain of Youth in the 16th century, and Tommy as a researcher trying to treat an illness that took his wife's life. In the 26th century, he is a cosmic astronaut who is flying into a distant galaxy on a spacecraft with a tree rooted in the location of his wife's grave, and heading for a dying supernova in the hopes that its explosion may be able to revive his wife. The storylines are intertwined and serve as a symbol for the dynamics of love and immortality. You might be confused and wonder how it all relates because the story brilliantly combines elements of science fiction, fantasy history, and faith. On paper, the plot might appear difficult to comprehend, but once you start watching it, it will become clearer. Number 7. The OSIRIS Child. Shane Abbas is the director of this sci-fi action film. The story takes place in the future, during a time of interplanetary settlement, and it centers on Cy Lombrock, a former employee of a medical facility, who joins the team of Captain Kane Somerville, an EXA and Offerth Armed Forces contract organization involved in the world's cosmic future, as they race toward an impending worldwide disaster while attempting to find Kane's young child, Indy. Although the science fiction movie is far from perfect, it is nonetheless very enjoyable. The 2 main advantages are its amazing scenery and the CGI, which occasionally has a Mad Max vibe. The plot's weak execution, which runs counter to its brilliant concept, is a disadvantage. Number 6. Dark City. Alex Proyas is the director of this 1998 neo-noir sci-fi film. Science fiction aficionados need to pay greater attention to this underrated masterpiece. A movie shouldn't be disregarded just because it's old and has decent CGI. Instead of looking for exceptional visual effects in every science fiction film, you should particularly be on the lookout for scientific fiction. The story centers on John Murdoch, a man with amnesia who discovers that he has been wanted for a series of horrific killings. The problem is that he cannot remember whether or not he was responsible for the attacks, making it difficult for him to clear his name while avoiding capture and to come to terms with what is happening. Murdoch is compelled to understand the complicated mystery of who he is, but as he nears the solution, he falls into demonic territory ruled by a group of evil beings known as the Strangers, who have the power to influence people and transform the city and its residents. In a later scene of the film, it will become obvious what the Strangers have to do with John or vice versa. Murdoch's relentless action, what is real about the city, and the reasons of the mysterious strangers are the three main things that will keep you interested the entire time. Number 5. Possessor. Brandon Cronenberg is the director of this sci-fi psychological horror film. The story revolves around top assassin Tasia Voss, who uses brain implant technology to gain control over other people's bodies and assassinates significant targets. At the end of each assignment, Bose transforms back into her physical form after using a device to implant her awareness into the minds of her unwitting victims. However, because she has so much time on her hands, she uses it to replicate her victims. Insanity sets in when Bose's psychological stress intensifies as she begins to lose control and finds herself trapped in the mind of her new victim, whose true nature appears to be destroying what she is, and she struggles to resist her developing separation from her own persona. Overall, the story is a strange, horrifying, and horrific fantasy that challenges reality. Number 4. Cloud Atlas. Lana Wachowski and Tom Tykwer are the directors of this epic sci-fi thriller film. The story swings across periods spanning thousands of years until each story is resolved. Characters appear in each era, but their relationships change with time. In this case, a monarch might turn into a slave, and vice versa. The story centers on Jim Broadbent, Halle Berry, and Tom Hanks, who play different characters across 5 centuries. For instance, Hanks plays a dishonest doctor on a cruise ship, an inquisitive employee at a rundown European hotel, and many more characters. On the other hand, Berry plays the same number of personas that Hanks does. As their spirits reincarnate and are born, their connections to one another are continually reinforced over time. Is Cloud Atlas too complicated because it has so many different narratives? The viewer is given sufficient time elements and indications to show how everything is related, so the answer is no. The story occasionally becomes unstable, and its main problem is that each section never feels like it has been fully developed because of how hard it attempts to make sense. But it's a massive science fiction show that spans both time and space. Number 3. I Am Your Man. Maria Schrader is the director of this sci-fi romance film. The story revolves around Dr. Alma Fieser, a historian who is convinced to participate in a spectacular experiment in order to raise money for her ongoing research. She must spend 3 weeks with Tom, a robot with artificial intelligence meant to be the perfect companion for her and suited to her desires. The rest of the movie focuses on that time period and their relationships, offering us a unique perspective on both human and AI flaws. First of all, this is not the kind of science fiction that we usually encounter or anticipate, and that is what makes it unique. The story is expertly written, with a mysterious plot that is actually heartfelt and sympathetic in a beautiful way. Yes, it has flaws, and its fundamental premise is flawed AI and humans, but it is unique, enthusiastic, interesting, and entertaining, so I guess it deserves a place on your list of movies to watch. Number 2. Ender's Game. It is a military sci-fi action movie based on the 1985 book of the same name by Orson Scott Card. The plot is set in the future, where humanity are preparing for an attack by the Thermics, an alien society that once invaded Earth and killed thousands of people. When aggressive aliens attacked Earth, Mazer Rackham's courage and strategy led to their victory and temporarily saved the planet from destruction. However, after the attack, they began to prepare for the next one as Colonel Hiram Graff and his allies launched a military operation to find the next Mazer and bring Ender Wiggin, who demonstrates an outstanding ability for learning, to the most advanced military training in space to get ready for an impending alien invasion and protect Earth. Harrison Ford, Haley Steinfeld, and the rest of the cast are all fantastic, and the space battle scenes, which occasionally resemble Star Trek action, are just amazing. The movie attempts to deal with a lot of difficult issues, and while it mainly succeeds in some of them, it fails in others. However, if you don't compare the movie to the book, it does a lot of things right and transforms the book's premise into a fun and inventive movie. Number 1. Riddick. David Twohy is the director of this sci-fi action film. It is a sequel to Pitch Black, The Chronicles of Riddick, and the third one. All 3 films in the Chronicles of Riddick series are solid, but Pitch Black stands out as a particularly excellent and underrated film, and the franchise has real potential if its creators continue the story. The story centers on the infamous murderer Riddick, who is left alone on a desolate planet and must rely on his senses to survive. Along the way, he teams up with militants sent to capture him in an effort to escape a much bigger threat. Overall, considering how long ago the film was made, the CGI is excellent and the action is incredible. But the movie received negative reviews from critics who liked Diesel's acting and the overall aesthetic of the film, but not much of its typical story and the lack of plot development, which is kind of true. Despite these flaws, it manages to impress a portion of the audience, and I also enjoyed it, but keep your expectations low. That is all for today. Thank you for watching, and please subscribe to our channel to view future videos about suggested movies and television shows.